What could this mean for the tournament, which starts in 18 days?
Well, if players that have been identified and institutions have been identified, then you can bet that their compliance offices will be investigating this on their own campuses. And there are different levels of ledger entries that were revealed in the report by Pat Forty and Pete Thamel. Anywhere from meals, which if that were proven true, because it's one thing to have a ledger entry, you'd like to have a little bit of corroboration there too. But if that were true and it were just a meal, you could repay that and your eligibility would be restored. If it's over a certain dollar amount, then you could see some serious issues with current eligibility. And what often happens, David, is an institution, when they learn of an issue, they would have to declare the player ineligible and seek that player's reinstatement. And most institutions do that as a matter of course because they're fearful of playing an ineligible player. And as we're getting toward the end of the season now, these things don't move as quickly as you'd like all the time. But right now, any player that has been named, you can bet that their compliance office is sitting them down and asking a number of different questions with regard to what they've seen in the report and then where that may extend.
Okay, so if we're talking of Bridges, Michigan State, time is, as you said, is drawing short. Here, we're getting close to the tournament. How can you see Michigan State playing that with respect to its best player?
Well, I don't know exactly what all the facts and allegations are. I read the report, but that doesn't mean it's true. And you would like to have corroboration of some ledger entry. But compliance will look at it and they'll make a determination, and Bridges will be interviewed and they'll make a determination as to whether it impacts his current eligibility. If it does, and they feel there are a lot of questions or some questions that need to be answered in the interim, usually what schools do is they declare the athlete ineligible and then they seek reinstatement from the NCAA by essentially proving that the athlete is eligible. And that can be a difficult thing to do. It's one of those things where you are guilty. In the NCAA's eyes, you are always guilty until proven innocent. And sometimes those things take a long time, sometimes they don't.
We'll see if they can fast track any of these cases. Obviously, it's a problematic point for a lot of these programs. We've talked a lot about the byproduct of so much money being around and the players not getting a slice of that. What's the solution to these kinds of money exchanges here, Jay, in the sport?
David, there are a million solutions to it, and just because the system itself is, in my judgment, corrupt, and it's based on a corrupt premise, doesn't mean that breaking the rules is okay. I certainly don't condone breaking the rules. But you have to ask yourself, in this whole U.S. Attorney's case and FBI probe, that in order for this not to be a crime, these allegations not to be criminal, there doesn't have to be any change in federal law. The only thing that would have to change would be NCAA rules. These are considered crimes because they're violative of NCAA rules, and somehow, under the theory of the government, the schools are the victims here, which I find hard to fathom. But you have to ask yourself, like in hockey, it's okay for an amateur athlete to have an agent, but it's not okay in basketball, it's not okay in football. And if people think that this is not going on in football, they're painfully naive or they're fooling themselves. This is happening in the money sports, and it's happening in baseball, it's happening in all kinds of sports. Maybe not to the same level, maybe not with all the same methods as it is in football and basketball. But I think we have to ask ourselves, do we want to go down a road where we're making billions upon billions of dollars, offensive coordinators are making millions of dollars, and then the players we're asking these players to be virginal when this entire system is awash in money? Is that the right thing? And to me, that's the first thing that I would be asking if I were a member of that commission is are these rules appropriate given the enterprise? I think you know my judgment on that, and that is no. That if we're going to sell these players for billions of dollars, they should be allowed to share in that without feeling like they're committing a federal crime. I think that's a real problem. And look, all due respect to NCAA administrators and the folks in Indianapolis and the NCAA president, but to come out and express shock at this is really galling, and really what the NCAA president, in my judgment, is saying, how dare anyone try to exploit these players before we're done doing it? Because that's exactly what's happening.